I found an antique sewing machine, forgotten and alone. I touched her rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood, where simple living's valued, she'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.
Hello, welcome back. I am going to start this new project, which as you can see is the free model number 5, kind of like Chanel number 5. I'm intrigued by this machine. Surprisingly, it has amazing decals, and surprisingly, they're not all terrible. She's filthy, her components are rusty, but I might try to do a decal restoration on this one, just because they're so unusual. It's like there's an exotic bird over on one part, there's things that harken to Egyptian type things on another part, but it's like a double partridge type of a motif. I think they might even try to be peacocks based on some of the feathering. I don't know, but it's actually really pretty. So I think that instead of doing a total strip and repaint, I might do something a little bit different just to try to bring back her elegantness, her exotic elegantness of the past. So like usual, what I'm going to be doing is taking her apart, you know, step by step, and cleaning each and every part up. And then once I have her totally disassembled and I have her clean and have a much better look at what I'm dealing with, I'm going to make that painting choice at that point. But let's go ahead and tip the camera down and get started disassembling. Okay, so the first thing I'm actually going to do, different than normal, is I am going to clean her, and I'm going to just coat her with a coating of my original formula non-pumice 𝐭𝐡𝐢𝐤𝐿 hand cleaner, just because she has so much dirt, and I want to be able to see what I'm dealing with here, and it'll help me clean everything up too. So you can see she does not have a lovely stable base like the white rotaries do. I love how those machines just can stand up nice and solid on their own. But let me go ahead, smear this stuff all over her, let it sit for a moment, get a paper towel and wipe it off, and you'll be able to see a lot clearer of what she looks like. I hope you can see that. There's actually some good depth to her decals. So I think that this is going to be the right decision. Down here, the place where there is the most wear is obviously in the front, as usual. So at some point I'm going to need to go in. It looks like we have several different shades of gold. I have an antique-y, darker gold, more of a golden gold. I don't know how you would differentiate them, but I'm going to order some different gold detail pens, different detail paint pens, so I can work on her. And hopefully by the time I'm ready for that step, they will have arrived. Down here in the very front, this button, it hits a lever that is for releasing her from her cabinet, and I do not have the treadle her original treadle cabinet. She's another treadle cabinet rescue from someone who was stripping out the machines to make tables out of them, and rescued her from getting tossed with the rubbish from there. So let's just see if I can get this off here first, and I'll just set it aside in case she ever does go to a home where they happen to have a free cabinet. It can't hurt to save the parts, but I'm doubtful. I'm doubtful about that because it's not a very common machine. Okay. All right, so there it is. I'm just going to throw some 𝐥𝐤𝐤 on that, put it in a baggie just to contemplate life for a little while, and so all of this stuff can get softened up. And I'll clean it and put it with the machine later, but this will not be going back on. Okay, so her front plate does slide off, and there is a shuttle in here. Looks like there's thread wrapped around it, so hang on one sec. Come on out, little shuttle. She's tied on, lots of threads. Okay, and inside of the shuttle is a bobbin, with its customary multi-layers of different threads. I'm just going to put the shuttle and bobbin in its own little bag. And I will be taking apart that and cleaning it, and put the plates in its own. Usually the back plate is a lot stiffer than the front plate. I think I'm going to have to tap that out. So I put the wooden handle against it. Still does not want to move. Try one more time. Well, we're going to have to do something else for that. In the meantime, I'm going to raise the presser foot. It's got a really nice knurled, it's like a very decorative, I'll have to zoom in and show you when I'm putting it back together, but nut, threaded nut that clamps on the little feet. It's actually really pretty. So let me put this in a baggie, which is going to end up with all of the presser foot things when I get there, and take this little plate off down here. I want to take this screw out, but it was so full of gunk that I couldn't get a good screwdriver placement in there. So let me see if I cleaned it out enough that I can actually get something in there. So let's see here. Yay. It was very tight. I have a feeling that this machine it's going to be a lot of tight things that are just full of gunk. And I can tell it does have a substantial amount of wear to it. This was not, just a decorative piece that was set aside. It was used quite a bit. Oh my gosh, lots of lint in there. If you're one of those people that loves a good lint close-up, I'll have to share that with you. I don't know if you can see here, but lots and lots of buildup. So it was definitely used. It's just, I don't think she was cleaned out a whole lot. Let me put a little penetrating oil around this, a little more tapping maybe. I'm going to try to avoid using any heat on this machine because I don't want it to destroy any of the paint or the decals. Okay, the back is off. There's a lot of junk down here that was probably kind of gluing it in place. But she's off now, and the plates aren't terrible, they're not terrible. I think that those will come out really, really nice once they're polished up. This little paddle right here, it's like a little spring, but it's shaped like a little paddle. I'm going to take that off by my screwdriver and put it with the shuttle because it's going to be somewhat part of that same mechanism. Okay, so it's just a little screw like this and a little springy paddle piece. I have no idea how tight this is, but while it still has its nut on there, oh, okay, that was good. I could put my screwdriver in and untwist, so. All right. This nut is kind of welded together with the little post in there with the rust, so. Give me a moment. I'm gonna put a little penetrating oil on that, maybe to free it up a little bit so I can get the little nut off of the post. Well, or maybe not. I don't want to just keep unscrewing because I might spring this little spring here. Okay, got it freed up. So now I can take off the little nut. Very rusty. Behind the nut is this piece, and this little finger here sticks into the hole that's in the casting. Okay, so it's that side out. Then is a spring and a spring. We got two springs here, all worked together. Okay, got the basket spring off of it. And then after that spring, there's a little washer, again with a little divider in the middle. And then, let's see if I can get this little guy. The spring, it's very stuck underneath. Let's see if I can just unturn the post at this point. Yes, at this point the post will come free. Okay. So unscrewing the post, it still has this tiny spring attached to it, which goes all the way down. Okay. You know what? I'm going to need to open up the faceplate before I can finish taking this out. And it has a little thumb screw up here on the top. Just a cute little thumb screw. And faceplate. All right, let me just put that in a baggie really quick and set it aside. The plate is plain. There's no engraving or anything on it, which is interesting seeing how ornate the rest of the machine is. All right. Okay, so now that I can see in here, let me tip her up. If you can see, this is what I'm dealing with, okay? This little bracket is holding that spring down. So I'm gonna need to take that bracket off. I think this will work. Excuse my hands. Okay. So taking off this little screw and this bracket here. Okay, this is all part of the tension. So I'm going to keep it together. So this little finger of the bracket actually hooks inside of this spring. And the spring is connected on both sides of the post. So that's why I couldn't flip it off, because it's attached very well. Okay. So with those, I'm going to have to stretch this up a little bit to slide off the top part of the spring, and then I can pull off the two discs, and then I can pull the rest of the spring off the back side of it. Okay. Now inside of here, it does look like there is a pin, a tension releasing pin. To make sure I get that. So here I can just push it out, and it does come out all the way, so I will clean that out too. So let me put all of these little pieces carefully in their baggies so that they don't get lost. And they will all be totally cleaned and polished and then reassembled. Usually I like to take the tension mechanism off and leave it complete in its baggie so that then I can disassemble it, clean it, and put it back together in one shot. But the way that this machine is put together, that's just impossible. You have to take it apart. All right, the little hole that it fits into, that's just part of the casting work, so that's all good. Now, I want to work on the presser bar, and it looks like we have our typical, lower that, our typical little screw up here on the top. If I can move you over. And I do see a washer in there. We'll see how agreeable it is to coming out. Lots of threads. All right, let me push the spring up. I don't know if it wants to get pushed up. It might not want to get pushed up, which could be trouble. How do we get you out then, little spring? Yeah, the little washer is not wanting to go through the hole up here. That's going to be blocking it, it looks like. So, and this down here, this is that really cute little screw, or nut, I should say, that locks the foot on. I'm going to take this out. I got a rusty piece of a needle sticking out. It's just screaming out tetanus, so pull that out while I'm playing. I believe what I'm going to need to do is somehow get this nut off down here. And this little, I don't know what that is, this little thing here. It doesn't look like a thread cutter, it just looks like a little screw clamping on, okay? I'm going to need to get this off, and then hopefully this bar will be free enough that I can slide it up with this staying in there. I think that's going to be my plan. So give me a few minutes. I'm going to spray this stuff down in here, you know, penetrating oil, just to try to loosen all kinds of stuff up. And I know there's people that are going to be freaking out about getting penetrating oil anywhere near all of the decals that I'm salvaging. And I'm wiping it up quickly. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Okay. Let me just let that sit, see what I can do, but right now my plan is to take off this nut, take off this bracket, and unscrew this little screw here. Let me see if I can get that off quickly. Okay, so I got that little screw out that should be holding this bracket. Let's see how loose. Yeah, it's kind of stuck. Okay, so I just wrapped a paper towel around the shaft and I'm moving it around back and forth so I can see it's moving. I'm just going to see if I can get it to wiggle its way up. Nice. Now that I can turn it, I can access this little screw, which is filthy, so I need to dig the little slot out so I can actually get a screwdriver in there. Loose. So I don't know exactly the purpose of this. It's got these little side pieces, side fingers here, and those are straddling what looks like another hole. It does not go all the way through. It might have held a thread cutter or something at one point. Okay, we got it free now. So it has a tiny little screw here. Let's see if I can, there, I saw it move. Okay. I'll turn it this way. See, there's a lot of gunk there. The penetrating oil is doing good work, though. All right. Okay, so this is that little bracket. And the best I can guess is that it was holding a thread cutter or something on, but you can see on this post that it was over has a bigger hole, a big threaded hole that screw was in, and then two smaller ones, which to me looks like the type of thing that one of those thread cutters that comes in from the side, like a post, and then it just sticks out, would go into. So that's my guess, that is long gone, and honestly, I'm not a fan of using those anyway, so I'm not going to sweat that at all. You know what? I'm going to leave this alone until I get to that point. Let me see if I can just pull this up yet. Put a paper towel up here and to grab it and wiggle. All right, I want to make sure I don't lose anything here. So I've got my presser bar, in all its glory, a washer, and a screw. All very dirty, but that's temporary. Okay, so let's just get a look at how the needle bar moves. Has a word stamped onto this piece. I can't read it right now. It's got a very small little cam in there at the end of the main shaft. So that's pretty cool. Oh, this piece, I need to pull this piece out and put it with my presser bar. All right, but it looks like I won't be able to slide it out until I get this out of the way. So we're just gonna let that chill for a while. This piece down here, it looks like it's part of the casting at this point. I can't really tell. Okay, it looks like it works kind of like a singer where there's a hole in the back here, and I have this bar at its straight down lowest point, and my screwdriver found a head, so I'm just going to try to loosen that up. Actually, might have to turn it this way so I can see it because it wants to keep slipping on me. Piece of wood. Okay. All right, I don't know that you can even see this. I'm going to stick my head in the way, but I'm just going to try to get my screwdriver in there and loosen it up. So that should have loosened this clamp here. I'm going to need to do the same thing where I'm just going to grab it after I wrap this up several times so it won't mar the bar on there, and just see if I can turn it back and forth. And I can, so that is really good. Okay, now that I got it loosened up to turn, I'm going to rotate it here because there's a screw on here I need to unscrew right there to get this whole little mechanism off. Okay, so once I got that little screw off, this whole thing came off. Now, this is the way it sits. So it's got this little bracket here, and the screw goes through there. But then this needle clamp fits inside of it. It just nests right in there like that. So that the side that has the screw is the same side that has this little twisty screw for holding on the needle. So I'm just going to put all of those little tiny, tiny pieces in their own baggie because I don't want to lose them. And see if I can extract this needle bar here. Okay, so if I want to take it out, this piece here is in its way if I want to go up. If I want to go down, I've got a plate in its way. Well, there has to be a way for it to come out. Let me see if I rotate this. Flip her up here. Just get a little look at her underneath for a moment. I've never seen one like this. That's pretty cool. That is actually really cool. Okay. I might just hold off on extracting that needle bar for a minute. I've got it sprayed down and go on to doing some other things so that I'll have more of this clear, so that then when I come back to this, hopefully, you know, the penetrating oil will have done its stuff. Back plate, obviously, and I can get it out easier. So with that, let me go ahead and just grab some random parts off. I'm going to take off this very nasty bobbin winder. I'm just taking off the screw that's going to hold the entire mechanism on. I'm not going to take apart the bobbin winder right now. I will do that when it comes time to clean it, because that way I can put it right back together again exactly the way it goes. It looks like a fairly standard design of a shuttle bobbin winder, but this is the little pin that goes through the back here. The head of the pin is on the wheel side, but you can see that's going to need a lot of help. But lots of rust on this. I might have to do some different kind of a rust removal system on this machine with all of it. It has a lot of rust on its little parts, its tension, its bobbin winder, but I don't see it inside here, which gives me a lot of hope. All right, this is my stitch length lever. Okay. Okay, so let me explain my dilemma here. Let's get this propped up. So, needle bar. I finally got it so it comes free from the bottom. I just cleaned it with my little brush down here and did some wiggling. But the problem is, it cannot go down here because it's not the feed dogs, it's part of the casting that's going to stop it down here. So that's not an option. And it's out of the way now. If I try to push it up through here, this is in the way. I believe I'm going to need to tap this little dot here out. It looks like I should be able to tap it from the bottom and tap it up. I'm hoping. I'm going to give it a try because otherwise I can't get it down and I can't get it up. It's just going to be stuck in there forever. Okay, I was able to tap it out. Came flying out. Don't want to lose it. This is what it looks like. Looks like a little bullet. So with that gone, my gosh, I need to get my paper towel and wrench again. Once I have this totally cleaned out in here, it will move a lot freer. Okay, so now hopefully I can get this needle bar out. Yay! Needle bar is out. And yeah, I'm just going to call that good for its own little piece. I can hopefully get this little piece out now. Hopefully. What's holding you in, little piece? Don't know. Usually these just pop out easily, but there's something keeping it in. I'm going to take out the presser needle, the presser bar lifter. I'm going to take that out and see if that gives me a little bit of space back here to figure this out. It might just be stuck, you know. There's so much grime in there, it's hard to tell what is what at this point. See this bar? I don't know if you can. There's a little bar right here. This piece here has like a little tooth like this that goes over, and here's the bar like this, and it's moving up. So to me it looks like if I move it all the way to the top, I should be able to pull it out this way. Okay, real quick before my battery totally dies, I figured it out. This is a pin, and what I had to do was tap it down. You can maybe see it sticking out just maybe 1/16 of an inch now. It was totally flush before. I had to tap it down this way to give myself enough clearance to pop this out. See, here's the little fork thing that I was telling you about. So that way, with enough clearance here, then I could wiggle it out, because this little part here is what goes up and down in the slot right here, okay? So that's how I got it out. I will probably have to tap that pin back up again. Looks like there's a shaving or something here. I might file that down because that looks kind of ugly. That might have been another reason why it wasn't coming off. You see this? It's like a very sharp thing there. That I'm just going to use my grinder wheel to take it off. I think that's just a imperfection from the manufacturing, but that's probably what was keeping it from moving all the way up. Once I get that ground off, I think that I'll be able to get this in and out without having to lower that pin if I ever take this apart again. And while I'm at it, there's a little screw right here that is holding this little arm on. This is the arm that has the needle bar clamp. I'm going to take that off to remove this little arm. And there is something written on it. I still can't read it, but that writing goes face up, obviously. Okay. So we have this little screw and this writing. It says patent something, APLFOR. Oh, patent applied for, I bet. I bet that's patent applied for. Okay, this is going to go in the bag with all the needle bar stuff. And I'm going to try to remove the rest of this whole little mechanism here by taking this screw off. We will see how successful I am. It does want to move all over the place. Hang on a sec. I need a better angle here. Fun fact, this screw is reverse threaded. So, just letting you know. The bottom one, the screw that holds on the needle bar clamp, regular, righty tighty, lefty loosey. For this one that it connects to, reverse threaded. And it does not have a different kind of screw head, it's just the regular screw head. Hang on just one second. And this little screw up here at the top, let's see, this one right up here, that is one more that I'm going to take off, and it is a standard thread. So from what I can tell, there's only that one reverse thread in here. Okay, so this whole thing is going to lift off now, hopefully. Okay, so it was sitting in there just like this, with this little piece bent over, more towards the front angle. All right, that looks like the thread take-up lever, the way that is. Sitting like this, with this little part screwed in up here. I was going to get this lever out here. And here's my problem. I just saw this and I was thinking, oh, well, there must be a screw on the back that I can unscrew it. Well, there's not. It's solid casting in the back. And this is a pin that was tapped in. And because there's nothing on the back, there's no way that you can pull it out. And this is just pounded in. So I think I'm just going to have to clean this in place. Not going anywhere. I'm going to see if I can get this little screw out here. This is the little bracket that this pushes up against to release the tension on the tension unit when the pressure bar is raised. But you have to kind of work around this pin here too. I could push this pin all the way out. I could do that. I still might do that. Let me get this screw out of here. All right. So this is that bracket, and it sits upright like this and like this, so that when this raises, it pushes this whole thing and it goes chonk and pushes up against here, and the little pin from the tension unit is what sticks out that it pushes up against, okay? So put this in a baggie. Okay, so over here looking at the underneath, I am trying to decide what's going to come first, and to me it looks like this shaft here, which is the one that, over here, well here, let me turn the wheel. I'm turning the wheel towards this way. This shaft is turned and rocked back and forth, and that is what is moving the feed dogs back and forth. So over here, you see this little part? That's connected to the lever that's up on the right, on the top part, which is pretty frozen here. But that is your stitch length adjuster lever. Okay, so it's that whole mechanism. So I'm going to be taking that off first and then dealing with this shaft. So let me loosen up these nuts first. Don't know what size they are. If I start with 1/2 inch, oh, it's 1/2 inch. How great is that? Okay, so righty tighty, lefty loosey. So here is one off, and then I'll do the same 1/2 inch wrench to take this side off. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to unscrew the pivot screws that those nuts were holding in place so I can loosen up the shaft. I'm going to pull these all the way out. Okay, so here's one. There'll be one just like that on this side too. Trying to see the order that this gets put together. It's a little different, and flinging out even more lint and stuff while I get in here because it's so full of little micey, not mice, but just a lot of lint. Just a lot of lint. All right, I think that I can't take this off until I take this mechanism apart. So let me come back on the right side here, and I'm just unscrewing this little lever here. This is my stitch length regulator, okay? Let me get a different dish for that. And that should release this to move about. All right, I'm doing things in all types of orders here. Over here on this side, just put it up right here. Okay, this screw right here is what is going to release the feed dogs eventually. So let me take that out because the bar that holds the feed dogs in is holding some of the other things I need taken out in. If that makes sense. You know what? I need to remove this nut. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Okay, now if I can get this nut off, then I should be able to undo that screw. Okay, this is a 3/8 inch socket that I'm going to be using to take this little screw off here. Almost. Okay, so now that this little screw is off, I'm going to put it over here. Hopefully, I should be able to take this screw off. Yes, it will turn now. Okay, so let me remove this screw, and hopefully that will release the feed dogs. Okay, so that's what it looks like. It's very tapered and pointy on this side, threaded up here. And put that up, and that should release this whole fork here that is attached to the feed dogs. It's like I need to be able to get to a screw that I think that this little access hole right here might be for. There's a tiny little hole here. Put my screwdriver through there, and I'm hoping, there's so much lint, it's hard to see, hang on. Let me pick out some lint, but I'm thinking that if I get my screwdriver through here and lined up, that I'll be able to unscrew the feed dogs from this bracket and be able to take that off. Okay, that was kind of a pain, but I think I got it. What I had to do is because my regular screw, it was on really tight, so I put oil and things on there, wiggled, whatever. My regular screwdriver, I could tell, would strip it. My Chapman head screw would fit in the slot, but I could not get the little Chapman driver in there because it was too close up here. I was going to run out of room. So what I actually ended up doing, and I don't know why this worked, is this is my little socket set. This is the little 1/4 inch head, which is probably the same as this, you know. But this sits shallower, so I could put my little Chapman bit in there and it wouldn't go in all the way, so that then I could put this in there enough to crack it. Once I had the screw cracked with this, then I could put my easily accessible screwdriver in. So I just got it out, and hopefully my feed dogs should be able to come out now, and they did. And this, I've dealt with a whole lot of really nasty machines, as you know, but I think this one has had the most lint than any. I should have been saving it as I went, but I didn't. So this is it. This is the cute little single feed dog with a toe. I'm going to put that in a little baggie. So now that that is out, this fork here that you cannot see, it's this fork, oops, right here. It can move back and forth, okay? Let me set her back up here. But cannot come loose until I get this whole shaft free. It looks like there is a pin over here holding the clamp onto the shaft there. Over here, I see a screw instead of a pin. So I'm thinking that I should undo these screws over here to pull this fork off, to be able to wiggle it off. But if I do that, you know, still thinking out loud here, I don't think that there's even room here to slide it all the way off. All right, I'm going to work on getting the little connector for where the stitched length knob goes back and forth. That connects onto here. I'm going to work on getting this whole thing taken out so that this fork will be free to move out. So there's a big screw over here on the inside, and there is a washer behind it. Let's see what this will do. All right. Very dirty. It's got a nice big shoulder on it and a wobbly washer. See how the washer goes up and down? Interesting. Putting that in the same little dish as my other piece. So does this come out now? Ooh, yes it does, and it falls straight into the machine. All right, let me flip the machine over and get that piece back out. This is what fell out. Now this, interesting, this is a block that's gonna, you know, regulate the angle. And usually in Singers and just about every other machine I've done so far, this piece is wedged way up high in the column, and it's a pain in the neck to get out. How nice that it's like right out here on the outside. Now this little bar here, if you can see, I'm just kind of spinning it around. It's a flat bar. That's what's going to go in here. So as this angle changes, with this bar turning, it's going to change the stitch length. So how nice of them to put that on the outside. You know, way to go, Free. So that is all part of the stitch length. I'm keeping those pieces together. Just stick some oil in here because that's a little stiff. I don't see where I can dislodge this yet. This piece, it's on a fork here that is connected to this shaft. Same as over here. So like this is a fork that I can pull that way. I guess there's a chance that I should be able to pull it out. Can I? Can I just pull it out? I can. Look at that. Okay. So once I clean it, it'll probably go back in better. This one that has the little bar for the stitch length obviously is in the back. And this one, and this is where the feed dogs were screwed into, that goes in the front. And they just slide in here. This is the back side of the machine with the access hole. Okay. There's little pivots down here, pivot over here that don't really pivot because they're kind of glued in place with crud. But that's okay. I'm really happy to get this out, knowing that that fork can just slide out. I'm going to go ahead and take the little shuttle carrier off at this point. Here's the screw that holds it on. Come on. Should come off. All right, so that's my cruddy little shuttle carrier. Put that away. Okay, so I need to work on this shaft here. So I've loosened up this nut down at the bottom. What was it? It was 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so I can pull that off. There is a screw head there. Oops. That tightens. Are you opposite? I think this is an opposite thread here. So righty-tighty is loosening. Interesting. I don't know that that's what I need to do right now, though. Let me tighten it back up because it looks like it's putting pressure on something I don't want pressure on yet. So just leaving this screw aside for a minute. Let's flip this upside down. There's another block here that looks like it needs to slide around. And a screw up here. And a screw down here at the end. Okay. Let me strategize for taking this shaft out. And to be totally honest, I am just removing obvious screws, keeping track of them, and seeing where that leads us. So this little screw here is the one that was holding this on. So I have that free. I can kind of see a shaft under there, and I can see that this is going to free up this. So I'm going to see if I can unscrew by screwing this little nut in. There's something that's not making sense. Let me flip it upside down here so I can take a peek. Okay. See, this is cast in, so this shaft goes through that cast. So obviously it needs to come out. Maybe the answer is down here. I'm going to try to loosen up the clamp that is holding that vertical shaft in place and see if by loosening up this clamp I can get it to release down below some. So it looks like there are 2 screws here on the clamp. Okay, so here's the top screw. All right. And okay, and the bottom screw, they look the same to me. So let me see if that can loosen anything up down here below. Okay, so now I can hang on to it, and I've loosened it up, and ta-da, this shaft comes off. It looks like there's another half of the clamp that fell off, and another piece of this that fell off. So putting it back in, the piece of the clamp this bar, the part that is cast to it, look at me, I'm just throwing things everywhere. Okay, the part of the bar that is cast in place is towards the front of the machine. The part of the bar that has a separate clamp piece that I am going to dig out of here in 1 second, that is towards the back of the machine, okay? And looking at it this way, this is how it is in place. The central little bearing spot is towards the wheel. The bottom one here is towards the front, okay? So it's going to go back into the machine. Oopsie. Yeah, back into the machine like this. Whoopsie. Did it totally wrong. Going back into the machine like so. Okay, so in this little slot, the bar that came off, okay, it's another little rectangular bar. That is what slides into this slot here, all right? So it's just this little part, and that pops onto this bearing. Okay, so they're both very dirty, but this on here, which is in here, which should go up and down in there, all right? So let me just leave this here for a second and fish out all of these parts that I poured back into the cavity of the machine. I should have a clamp and something else. Yes. Okay, so this is the other side of the clamp. And look, this has a very rough, sharp piece sticking out there too. I'm gonna take that off before I put this all back together again, or else I think I will cut myself. So it'll be like this, okay? Like that. Bars I was talking about earlier. This is the bar. So many bars on here. This bar slides onto the metal bearing in the middle of this, okay? Which there is a piece cast into this machine. In here, I don't know if you can see. Oh, well, it's right down there. There is a slot that is cast into the side of the machine, and that is what, oh, come on. That's what this slides into and moves up and down on here. And there is a washer behind this. It just looks like it's kind of glued on with crud. I think it's a washer. I don't know, it might not be. But anyhow, once I get it all cleaned up, it will move much more freely. Okay, so it's got this cool little dancing thing going on here. I love the way that this moves. It looks like it's being held together by a long pin. And to me, it looks like if I tap it from this direction, I should be able to drive it out, and hopefully that will separate the two so that I can get them apart. Okay, I'm gonna just work on tapping this little pin out. Actually, before I do that, when I tipped it over on its side, I see a couple little screws there that are probably doing something. I don't know what, because it's not really a clamp. I'm gonna see what I can do to open up these screws. Okay, what I'm seeing here is these two screws, I believe, are holding the whole little bracket that this whole part is attached to onto the main casting. So I'm gonna see what I can do to get those off. Does not want to move. At all, which I understand it's a structural piece. Well, I'm having issues here. This pin does not want to tap out. These screws do not want to tap out. I might just clean this shaft in place because I'm having a hard time. I don't want to destroy anything. I am going to, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So, oh, I forgot to put, I need to go put this little nut with everything else it belongs to. So I'm just going to assume I'm going to clean this shaft in place here because For right now, it wants to stay there. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and take the wheel off. Oh my goodness, that's very tight. Okay, let me put some oil on this because this little screw does not want to come off. I think that it's probably just the threads of this nut are rusted to it, so I'm just going to give it a little time to think about itself. Once it does, I'll hopefully get this little nut unscrewed. Okay, it took a lot of penetrating oil and wiggling and some vice grips with a cloth. And once I was able to loosen this up, then I knew it had broken free from these threads for this center screw, which is a reverse threaded screw. Keep that in mind. And pull this nut off. This nut acts like the wheel, like on a Singer where you crank it towards you. Stop motion wheel, I think it's called. That's what this little knob acts like here. So the question is, this is the tip end of the shaft. I don't know that it's going to want to come off easily. I'm probably going to have to get my gear pullers to get that off. But before I do that, I need to get this belt guard off. Let's hope it wants to come off nicely. Okay, so this is the little belt guard. It has a single screw here, but the decals are nice and pretty on top. Okay, I'm back from my lunch break and got the wheel off. It took a while because there's a couple screws here at a 90-degree angle. One is going this way, one's going this way. And you can kind of see on the shaft those 2 points. Well, maybe you can't, but there's 2 little dots on the shaft where they were screwed in. It took a lot to get those 2 screws out. It was heating and oiling and tapping and trying and heating and oiling and tapping and trying all kinds of screwdrivers and everything. Finally, I got it, got those screws out. And then I did have to use my gear puller around the entire mechanism, which was both this and the clutch wheel. Okay, I guess that's what it's called. I should look that up someday. And I pulled it out with my gear puller. Oh, where are you, gear puller? I don't even know, it's back on my table somewhere. But once that came out, this shaft moves back and forth very freely. It will not come out because, you know, it is a little shape going on in here. So it's not going to come out completely out, but it does move back and forth very, very freely. So that is nice. At this point, I'm just going to get started with the cleaning because I am not going to strip, I'm just going to clean. But I wanted to show you online, I found the instruction book for this machine on the 𝐸𝐤𝐞, I think that's what you call that acronym, website. And one of the things it has in here is a very fabulous diagram. Every single part is numbered, and it has all an index of all of the parts by number. So that's pretty cool. So this is a great reference for me to have. I also looked up, and it said that the history of this machine, it's like it started as one thing, got renamed the Royal, got renamed something else. The Free is named after a guy named William Free, who was the president of the company. And apparently in 1926, the Free merged with Westinghouse. So after 1926, it's the Free Westinghouse. So I know this is sometime before 1926 and after, well, I wrote it down, I think after 1897. So I did also find out that there's 2 different kinds of, they call them the arm. And I think this is the C. It says the rounded ones are the C, and that there's a square one that is the E. I believe this is the C head, okay? And they had a particular name for this wibbly wobbly mechanism. something similar to scoliosis, but it wasn't scoliosis, and I tried to Google their word for it, and I could not find a definition for it. So, you know, we're just gonna call it the scoliosis shaft at this point because, you know, it's what I can remember. I'm still thinking I'm gonna clean this in place, so I should probably get started with that first. So what I'm gonna start off with is just the bottom, getting the bottom clean, and I'm gonna do the same thing to the bottom as I did to the top when I first cleaned it out, which is get my 𝐭𝐤𝐤𝐿 stuff and just totally coat everything down here. This stuff will somewhat dissolve nasty grease and grime. You know, it's not a hardcore solvent, you know, because it is made for a hand cleaner. It's gone through all of those safety precautions for skin contact, I'm hoping. So I have never had a problem with it damaging decals or anything like that. So there you go. I'm just going to coat all of this, let it sit a few minutes, and then what I have found that works pretty good is to get a brush. This is just a nylon brush. I have a metal brush too, and then just start rubbing it with the brush. And that's going to clean it up really, really good. And then once all of that, see this dried on grease? I don't know if you can see that right there. Let's see if I can zoom you in. Well, I think that's about the most we could do. But there's about a bunch of dried on grease. You know how it gets. Well, I got the 𝐭𝐤𝐤 on it, get my metal brush, and I'm just going to rub it for a second. And this is messy, so you know, wear your apron and stuff. It wants to turn. All right, so pretend that I have rubbed it really well for a while. I'm gonna get a paper towel and wipe it off, and it's very, very clean, you know? So that's basically what I'm gonna be doing for this whole underneath part. Give me a few minutes, let me get all that done, and I'll show you what it looks like once I'm finished. I wanted to mention before I forgot, one of the other things I read in their booklets and things was that one of the major selling points is that there are absolutely no springs in these machines, that they were blaming springs for a host of problems. Well, except for the tension, because we know that there's a tension spring, you know, we already saw that. But as far as other things down here and all, they're saying there are no springs, so you're not going to have any problem with springs, and you know, that's a big selling point. And there was also a history of patent litigation between this company and another company, and it looked like it was just a nightmare of patent litigation and everything, which probably explains the little arm in here that says patent applied for. They were probably trying to cover their rear for something in there. But so far I can tell you, I think it's a neat little put together engineered machine. I've never seen another machine with a little mechanism like this down here, and I'm liking it. And I'm liking having that stitch length adjusting block down where it's easy to get in and out. I mean, that's definitely a plus. Okay, so I think that this bottom shaft is looking pretty good, pretty clean. It is moving very, very freely. I'm going to scrub down a little bit more this little part here that the shuttle carrier connects to. I need to get my brush in sideways in there. But I just wanted to show you this is going to work for me. One more up-close view of my little 𝐭𝐤𝐤𝐿 something or other shaft. It just looks like it's having fun dancing to me. So anyway, let me scrub this down and I'll flip the machine over.